Hello and welcome to the August 12th, 2014 edition of the Get Untethered Hangout. I am Stacey Harmon. I'm here with my co-author of Untethered with Evernote, Kristi Willis. Hi, Kristi.
Hello.
And we're truly working untethered today. We're based in Austin, but I am coming to you from California and the Pacific time zone, and Kristi is in Dallas today. So we have a little bit of a change of pace, but our offices are with us, and Evernote's enabling us to work and continue on with our daily agendas, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. Just as a little bit of a background, Kristi and I are co-authors of Untethered with Evernote, Tips and Workflows for Independent Entrepreneurs, and we are also both Evernote ambassadors, so we are quite passionate and about the platform. And we're also Evernote Business Certified Consultants, so we are experts in the business version of the Evernote platform, and certainly both use it in that capacity to run our businesses and work with others to help them do the same. You're watching our monthly Get Untethered Hangout, which was this is the third Hangout that we've had. The first Hangout we did, and you can watch the replay on the YouTube channel, it was on strategies and tips for organizing your notes in Evernote. So feel free to go back and look at that if that topic is of interest to you. Last month we did strategies for managing business cards and leads with Evernote. So that was a great tutorial kind of showing you, especially the iOS function, but also for those of you that aren't able, or on iOS, we show many case studies about how you can manage your leads and through templates and such. Great training there. And then today we're going to be talking about to do or not to do, Evernote and task management. Kristi and I, this is one of the areas that we discuss in the book where we really differ how we use Evernote, so it should be a fruitful discussion, kind of giving you some ideas, and hopefully you can figure out which works best for you. And then next month we're going to be talking about managing receipts and expenses with Evernote, and all of these Hangouts are recorded and available for replay on demand at the YouTube channel, so we encourage you, if you can't attend live or watch the whole thing, that you come back and look at it for check it out for a review when you get a chance. And then we'll be offering you a discount code for our book at the end, so please stay tuned to that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristi. Just as a little bit of info. Oh, I've got a little bit of a distraction today, so I have a little puppy in my lap. This is Camus, and he's going to be learning about Evernote with us, but if you hear a little bark, that's what it is. I'm holding him so that hopefully we don't have an issue, and I'm going to convert him to Evernote, hopefully. But Kristi, why don't you tell us what's going on in your world?
Thanks, Stacey. As you mentioned, I am in Dallas today, and I'm in a hotel room, so I am on somewhat limited Wi-Fi, but hopefully the speed is okay, and we will manage through that. Definitely working untethered for the last few days. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with the slideshow and just get us kind of started with that. So just real quickly, I'm going to share my screen. And as we go through the Hangout today, we do have a Q&A pod. You are welcome to ask questions in that. You can also tweet to us at the Get Untethered hashtag, and we'll be happy to answer questions that way as well. So feel free to chime in at any time, and then we'll have pauses throughout the Hangout to address questions as well. As Stacey mentioned, we are going to talk about Evernote and task management today, and how you can use Evernote in a couple of different ways to manage your day-to-day tasks. And again, Stacey introduced both of us, but there are our Twitter handles as well as our websites, and all the different ways that you can connect to us. For us, writing the book, Untethered with Evernote, was very much part of starting a community conversation, and we're happy to have a very active community on Facebook as well as the other places, and so we hope that you'll join us there and be part of that conversation. Today, we're going to look at two different approaches to task management. So Stacey and I, as she mentioned, really differ here, and there are two very different schools of thought about task management. So some people prefer to use Evernote for everything, and they will create notes, checklists, reminders for their to-dos and their different things that they need to take care of. And the advantage to this approach is that everything is in one place. And so you'll see as Stacey demonstrates her system how she uses Evernote as the base of her task management system, and allows her to have everything in one place. The downside to this approach is it does require a lot of manual manipulation. So you'll see some of the things that she goes through, and she goes through this in more detail in the book, but it requires you to manage and move the task or change the task manually. The second school of thought, which is the one that I apply to more, is about using Evernote with a task app. And this has become increasingly easier, and I'll talk about some of the apps that integrate well with Evernote. But it's using a task app that is designed specifically for task management to manage the task side of it, and really using Evernote for the backup and the detail that supports those tasks. And I'll show you a couple of different ways that that works. The benefit of that is that you're using a task app that was specifically designed to manage tasks for that piece of it. Because Evernote can do it, it requires a little bit more manipulation. The disadvantage is that you have things in two places. So I have task in my task app, and I have the backup in Evernote. And so some people prefer not to use that method because it's splitting things between two places. Part of it is just an approach and a style. Part of it may have to do with the type of work that you do, and I'll give you a couple of different examples of that as well. Neither is wrong, neither is right. It's whatever works best for you, and over time people may go back and forth between the two, but you'll find one hopefully that fits your style. So those are the two kind of schools of thought about how you can use Evernote to help support you with tasks. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Stacey, who is going to walk us through some of the basic skills of how you can use Evernote for task management, and then specifically how she manages tasks with her system. So Stacey, you want to take it away?
I've got it. Okay, so let's see. I have got, so as Kristi mentioned, I do the, let me flip over here. Sorry, I'm new. So my system is entirely managed in Evernote. I do all of my task management within Evernote, and what we want to do in this segment is I'm going to show you just what the essential skill sets you need in Evernote. This is kind of where, if you're newer to Evernote, these are the skills that you need to know, and there's three that really impact my use and ability to use Evernote as my task management system. So I'm going to go through what those three things are, and then give you an overview of how I kind of use Evernote as my task manager. And the first thing you need to know is checkboxes. And it's one of the first things that most people get familiar with in Evernote. You can create a checkbox and a checklist in any note. The arrow here shows that you can just open a new note and put your cursor in the body of the note, hit that checkbox, and start typing. It'll put a little box in there, and then Evernote has this functionality where it actually lets you check off the item as you finish it. And it's very slick. If you hit return, it'll auto-insert another checkbox there. So this is the simplest form of task management, is a to-do list. And one of the skills that I deploy quite often in managing tasks within Evernote. And the simplest use case, and the reason I bring this up is because I use it absolutely every single day, is I have a task list that is next actions, errands to run, and it is a checklist that I have on my phone, and I have bookmarked. We talk about shortcuts in the book as well, and I'm able to pull that through to my phone and also on my Pebble watch, so I can see those kinds of things, and the checklists appear, and I'm able to just click with my finger and check off things as I'm in Target or the grocery store. So really simple use case. Most people are familiar with this, but one of the essential skills for managing tasks, and I use that in a variety of ways in my system. The second skill that is helpful if you're going to manage tasks within Evernote is the reminders feature, which we discuss in detail in Chapter 3 of Untethered with Evernote. So this is kind of a high-level overview, but you can see here in this slide on the left, there's a little clock with a checkbox, and you can choose to add a reminder to a note, and you can tell it specifically when to when to be set for and when to notify you. And you can see that once you assign that, up in the upper right-hand corner here, it'll actually tell you the due date if you assign a date to it. And then you can mark things as done, or you can clear the reminder altogether. So there's some functionality that you can assign to individual notes around reminders. Now, there's also a skill that I use a lot in my task management, which is called setting an undated reminder. And in essence, when you do this, it pins something to the top of your list. So we go through in the book how to specifically do this. But if you do not assign a date to your reminder, as this is showing here, what it does is it pins it to the top of your note list. And what we mean by that is, you can see here, this is a screenshot of my Evernote, and we've got the left panel which shows most of my structure. But this is the detail of a notebook that I have, and up at the top is quick access to this pinned note that was placed there as a result of having a reminder versus having a dated reminder. So that just kind of allows you to have quick access. So you can see I've got a lot of, I've got more notes than I can see in this preview panel, but I can quickly access that note that I want up at the top with a non-dated reminder. So that's skill number 2. And then the third skill, which doesn't seem like it would be necessarily a task management feature, but is really what enables me to manage tasks inside of Evernote. Kristi can speak to if she actually uses this in her task management or not, but note linking really is very powerful, because what it lets me do is go from one note to the next, and I can create a list of things to do, and then when I click on it, it takes me right over to the detail of that note. So we discussed this, and these are screenshots directly from the book. So in Chapter 3, we cover that in detail. And here's a brief tutorial, but we actually go through the actual steps in the book, so you can create this in your own Evernote account. But you can, this is Mac interface right here, but in the note menu, you can choose to copy the note link for any note in the Evernote system. So every single note has a unique link that you can copy, and then you can paste that note, paste that note link into the note that you want to link from to the detail of the note. So hopefully that makes some sense. And then I just want to throw in a power user tip. For those of you that this is not new to, Evernote's recently changed kind of the interface, and if you are in the view that you see on the right, and you right-click on the note to copy the note link, if you hit down the Option key, it'll change the words to copy classic note link versus the note nomenclature that's in the note menu. So you have a choice between copying the note link or copying the classic note link. And again, this is a very strong power user tip, but the difference is it'll keep you inside your desktop version of Evernote when you link to the note, as opposed to kicking you out to the web. So some of you may have noticed that, but both are very good features for allowing quick retrieval and interlinking between your notes, and I use it extensively in my task management system. So with that, let me give you just kind of an overview. I subscribe, my use of task management in Evernote is really defined by my productivity philosophy, which is the Getting Things Done philosophy by David Allen. I read that book and I said, wow, this is a really physically oriented, paper and folder system. I can deploy this in Evernote, and that's what I've done using the skills that I just showed you. But it is based in kind of the classic idea that the calendar is kind of my central location. I don't put anything on my calendar unless it's a hard deadline that is actually scheduled and on a particular time on a particular day. And we discussed my overall philosophy in Chapter 2, and then we discussed kind of the details of it in Chapter 4. So I don't use my calendar for task management, I use my calendar for actual appointments, and it integrates with my task management system, which again we discuss in Chapter 4, but this screenshot really tells the story. And I know that there's a lot going on here, but this is because this is my entire dashboard, and this is a screenshot I just took from this morning, which really shows that I have replicated David Allen's tickler system here, where I have a stack and several notebooks over here on the left, one for each month, and I use naming conventions to game the order of those, and I have a current month and a next month. And you can see I have one note per day, and it's here in the middle. And then in the right-hand panel, each note has a personal and a business section. And what I do is I have anything that has a time and date associated with it goes on my calendar. Anything that has to be done on a specific day, but not time sensitive, goes on my tickler note. And then I actively manage these on a day-to-day basis. I'm in this system all the time, and I move things to and from this. And if it's not essential, it goes into my my supporting materials and my project support materials. It only gets onto this if it is specific to that day. So you can see today that I have to send an email off. I need to follow up with a friend about if he'll be here in Orange County while I'm here. And then on the business side, I have some things I need to do that are specific to today, but they are not time sensitive. So I'll do those in the time that I don't have calendar items booked. So this is kind of the high level overview. Again, in the book, we go through specifically how I manage this on a day-to-day basis and how to set it up. So if this interests you, you certainly can reference that. We know not everybody's going to want to do that, so I just wanted to kind of give you the overall concepts, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about it during this or after the Hangout, but this is kind of the overview. And as Kristi mentioned in the opening slide, I actively manage this. I'm actively moving things from one day to the next. If the other thing I want to show you is you can see on the 16th in the middle here, this is something that should happen on a certain date. So I have it on the date that it should happen. So I'm manually managing those things, and when the 16th comes up, then I will do that. And I personally am committed to getting everything that's done on my daily tickler list completed. So that's generally how I manage it, and that is allowing Evernote to manage the entire process for me. And then I use, as you saw in there, note linking as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for you so I can get back to the Hangout. And it allows me to use checklists, note links, and I don't actually need the reminders because my notes themselves are actually dated, but I do use the pinned non-dated reminder to help me manage within that month. And again, the book goes into immense amount of detail about that. So with that, I'm probably making Kristi nauseous explaining the task management in Evernote. She has very different approaches, but we'll pass it over to her and let her start describing alternative ways.
Let's just take a second. Stacey, I think that's a great overview of how you can use the checklist, the reminders, and the different note leaking techniques to really make a robust system in Evernote. And I was just checking, I don't see any questions in the Q&A pod, but if you do, let's see. Looks like we're good. But if anybody has questions in any place along the way, feel free to chime in. But it looks like we're pretty good right now. Is it clear for you?
It's clear for me.
Okay, I just didn't know if mine was broken again.
No, I think we're good. Okay. I think we've stunned them with the complexity of my system. That might be it. I don't know.
So Stacey and I do come at task management from a similar philosophy. So I used to work for a company and still do consulting work for a company called The Effective Edge. Christina Randall and David Allen used to work together. They have similar philosophies, and it is very much that mindset that I manage from a set of tasks and a calendar, and only timed events go on the calendar. But I didn't really enjoy using Evernote for my task management. It was missing some things that I wanted, and I've kind of popped around between a couple of tools. Actually, when we wrote the book, I was using a program called any.do. And I've ended up moving to a fairly newer app that actually integrates with Evernote. And so I'm going to take you through a little bit of a tour of that, and then specifically talk about a couple of different apps that are set up to help you integrate with Evernote if you want to use more of a task management approach. So I am going to share my screen just real quickly. Oh, a bit more. So actually, James has a question before I do that. Stacey, do you want to address James' question about note linking?
Sure. I use the note linking a lot, and the note linking feature as you see in the slide, so if you watch the replay, you'll actually see how you can access the note linking function. But in essence, what you would like to do is, what you're going to want to do is have your cursor and have the note that you want to link to selected in Evernote. Okay, so it needs to be active and the note that you're choosing. And then you can right-click on that note, or you can go to the note menu in your desktop version of Evernote, and you can, if you right-click, which is the method I use, I right-click and I copy note link. And then that puts the behind-the-scenes permalink, in essence, of your note to the clipboard, and it allows you to then paste that in another note. So you can either copy text and then paste the note link, insert a note link, which I use a key command for. I do it so habitually, I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's a Command K to paste the note link. And then you can paste the note link into the dialog box that Evernote brings up, hit save, and it will create an active hyperlink over to the other note. So I certainly can do a tutorial on that if we have time at the end, but that's the gist of it, and a feature that we actually discuss explicitly in the book, so that's one resource for you. Evernote also, I believe, has a blog post illustrating the note linking feature, and again, if we have time at the end of this, Kristi, I'll be happy to demo it.
Okay, and I can show a quick example. It actually would tie into something I'm going to do too, so okay. I can show a quick example too.
Perfect.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and James, I'll make sure when I go into Evernote that I show a quick example of that. But there are a number of task apps, and so for me this fits in that I love Evernote and I use Evernote for a lot, but there are some things that an app that's specifically designed to do that type of functionality may give me some features that Evernote's just not going to. And so for me, managing tasks is one of those places. Fortunately, there are a number of task apps that integrate with Evernote directly. I'm going to show you Azendoo, which is the one that I'm choosing to use. It's free at the basic level, and then there's a paid level as well, but it integrates directly with Evernote in a way that I hadn't really found in the other apps, which is why I ultimately chose it. And then there's another called Get It Done, one called Nosby, and then one called Zendone. There is also a really powerful tool called Task Clone that will link your favorite task app and Evernote. And I am just going to bring up real quickly the list. I couldn't screen capture it because it's so long. But here, oh, I must have lost it too. But anyway, on their website, I'll just go back to the slide. I thought I still had it open. On the Task Clone website, there is a complete list in their support page of all the apps that they integrate with, and it is a very extensive list. So just about any app that you could, task app that you could think of, Task Clone has come up with some Evernote integration. And what that linking looks like is that by using a specific tag in Evernote, Task Clone knows to go take that note and put a tie to it in your task app. So for example, if I created a note that is for a new task, I could put the tag that I created there, and then Task Clone would go create a new task item with that note. Some of those actually create a hyperlink back to the note in Evernote. It just depends on which app you're working with and what level of integration it has with Task Clone. But there are a number of different options that you can use. I ultimately settled on Azendoo and have been using it for a couple of months now, and I'm really happy with it. What I really like about this is Azendoo allows me to organize by what are called workspaces, and because I have different clients and different teams that I work with, it allows me to invite people to a workspace. If you ever used Basecamp, it's a little like inviting somebody to a project in Basecamp. But it allows me to invite different clients to different projects and then, or to workspaces, and then within those workspaces you have tasks and you have what are called messages. So we can have basically instant message conversations, we can share files, and we can share tasks around that particular workspace and subject. And so with each task or with each message or each subject, you can share Evernote notes. And so for a task, you can tie it directly to a note. Not every task that I have has a backup or support note, but a number of them do, particularly things like articles that I'm writing. There will frequently be an interview or a set of interview questions that I want to tie to that task so that I can quickly get back to that in Evernote. And so every time I create a task, I have that ability to tie it to a new note or to an existing note in Evernote, which is really nice. I'll just show you an example of that. So this is an article that's due tomorrow, so you'll guess what I'll be doing tonight. And you can see that I tied it directly to the pitch that I made, which is in a note in Evernote, and it allows me to pick the date. You can see I've got it assigned to the writing assignment subject, and that's one. This is kind of a personal one. I wouldn't be sharing that with someone else, but I've got some other examples where I am sharing it with other people. Here's just another example of when I'm working and putting in a message or working in a particular subject. I can go in and tie it to Evernote. I could also tie it to a Google Drive doc or a Dropbox or Box. So there are lots of different ways, or something from my computer. So lots of different ways to collaborate, which is nice. And then again, here's just another place. This is a message board where we can send notes back and forth to each other, but another place to share notes. And my whole company runs on Evernote, so that makes a big difference. And then just a quick look at what the iOS app looks like, so having them show up in my list there. So I am going to just demonstrate Azendoo just a little bit and kind of how it ties to Evernote, just so you can see that. So I'm going to flip over to, oops, wrong window, Azendoo. And Stacey, just to confirm, is that showing in your screen now?
I'm still seeing the iOS app.
Okay.
And while she does that, I'm going to address. Oh, it's coming up. Okay. We have a question, and Doug, we definitely will get to your question. So when Kristi finishes her demo, we'll address some of the questions that have been queuing up.
So he has a question about contacts. Okay. So we can talk. We'll definitely talk about that. So this is Azendoo. As I mentioned before, I have different workspaces. So right now I'm just in my general workspace, which is showing me any task from any area assigned to any subject. And so that allows me to go through and plan my day. One of the things I like about Azendoo is I don't have to pick a day for everything. I know these things have to happen this week. I have yet to assign them to a day, but I will. But it kind of holds them in a pool for the week, which is nice. If I wanted to create a new task, I can do that here. And so, for example, I need to draft an outline for a new article. And I can go over and just click on my elephant here, and that's going to allow me to go through and pull up all my notebooks. And I can either search through all notebooks or just a specific one. So let's say it's for in my inbox. One of my favorite things about Azendoo is it does pull up my, and I apologize, my internet's slow, so you can see it's kind of searching, that it does pull up and integrate with the business notebooks, which not all of the apps do. And so let's say that what I wanted was here. It's going to import that note for me, and I can choose to just import it or to import and sync. And so if I make changes on either side, the import and sync will do that for me, and so then I can press enter and it's going to add that to my list. So just a really nice way to be able to quickly do that. We are using this actively where my production assistant Lillian and I are working on a cookbook with a local photographer. And so we created a workspace for the cookbook, and you can see that we have not only attached some notes to task, but this is similar to that screenshot. Here we have the full project plan, which is laid out in Evernote, and we have that attached to that space. And Lillian can see that, I can see that, the photographer can see that. We can all comment and make messages and leave messages off of it. Which is nice. We all use Evernote, so we could have just had the project plan in Evernote, but being able to add that messaging capability made a big difference. And particularly with the task and being able to assign tasks to each other but still have them tied to the notes it makes a big difference. So we are just getting started with this project. So we are excited to be able to use that. You can see we have a meeting today to talk about a photo shoot in a couple of weeks. But it allows us to be able to easily integrate back and forth and do those things. And so we have a question from Marcy about workspaces, and is a workspace the same as a notebook? So a workspace is a terminology in Azendoo that is not related to an Evernote term. And a workspace is a way for you to organize tasks and messages together. And so what's important about a workspace in Azendoo is that I can invite people to a workspace. So for example, Stacey and I could have a workspace for Untethered with Evernote. It would be a place that we could work together and share tasks and messages, and we could attach notes to it as well. And so that's how a workspace fits in. Where Evernote notebooks fit in is when I do go to attach a note to something. For example, this has a note attached to it from Evernote. That when I do go to attach a note to something, it's going to let me either search all of my notebooks in Evernote or a specific notebook. Okay. So again, a workspace is an Azendoo thing for people, particularly who are working on multiple projects, would allow me to go through and organize those in a specific way. And then once I'm attaching an Evernote note, I can pick up from a notebook, so not directly related to one another. Hopefully that helps with Marcy's question.
So Kristi, just for my clarification, sure. The advantage for you here is that you can have an ongoing discussion and marry that with the date and calendaring and note feature. That's the whole package for you?
Yeah, so it does a couple of things for me. On a personal level, working with tasks, so for example, if we just go back to my main overview and look at my task. Let's take in a second. Hold on.
One of the challenges of being untethered is you're contingent on bandwidth.
We are today. We are testing the limits of what the Four Seasons in Dallas is capable of, I think. So from just a sheer personal task management place, not even getting into sharing. What I like about Azendoo is this ability for me to, when I look at my task, be able to look at it for that day or bucket things for that week, be able to tie it directly to a note in Evernote. So for example, working on PowerPoint slides for an upcoming presentation, I can tie those to a note in Evernote. And that makes it easy for me to get back to that, but it also allows me to put context to it. So for example, I have a note here or a task here that I can not just attach an Evernote. I might have a Google Drive doc or a Dropbox that I want to attach to that. If I needed to get Lillian involved, my production assistant, I can do that. I have a place to make comments. So it allows me to just kind of go a little bit beyond just the note and add some other context to it, which is nice.
Yeah, and the interface is really clear and well done as well. So I can see the appeal to it. And then just as a point of contrast for those listening, I'm doing similar things within Evernote. It's just more manual. So I will attach information about documents that live on Drive or in other locations through note linking and sharing or just a call log or conversation log. So similar needs, just handled a different way, and again, not as systemized. I'm very contingent and have to rely on establishing a system and working the system, and this creates a little more structure and a better probably user interface. So whatever style works for you, it's just two different approaches to similar challenges.
Well, and then from a client management standpoint, so there's the My Personal Task, which I was sort of struggling with and trying to find the right app for. And I did like the interface on any.do. I found it to be a really easy to use. But what was missing for me on any.do was not only like the direct linking to Evernote, which I really wanted. And when I saw that I could just click on the elephant to add a note to a task, I was like, yes. But the other piece that was missing for me was the collaboration space with my clients. And being able to invite them and have them be a part of it without having to have Evernote, because I can't require, as much as I would love to, I can't require that my clients have Evernote. But this gives them the ability, without having to have a paid account on something, this gives them the ability to view and share with me in a collaborative way, be able to see the notes in the way that I like to work, but us be able to have a shared timeline around upcoming projects. And so that's been that added benefit. So not only did I get a personal system that's working for me, but it gave me a construct to kind of work with, to collaborate with other people, which has been nice.
Great.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, so that is Azendoo. I did promise that while I was sharing my screen, I would show linking. So since I'm here, I'll do that, and then we can kick back for more questions. Okay. So this is a great example. Although I thought I just changed the name of this, but I have been at a conference the last few days, a sommelier conference, and I was running around the ballroom last night interviewing people, and you can tell that I didn't even get the note renamed because I was so busy.
Kristi, I'm still seeing Azendoo. Just
okay.
So you know.
Hopefully it'll switch back over here in a second.
Okay.
A little bit of a lag.
Yeah.
Are you seeing it now?
I'm not.
Okay. Sometimes it helps if I just stop sharing and reshare.
I think that's a good workaround.
So we'll do that real quick. Okay. Okay. All right. See it now?
I do. Perfect.
Excellent. So so this is a good example. So I was running around doing audio notes. Each note's a different interview. I would rename this, so I'm just going to do a quick note there. And then you can see that because I tagged this in Azendoo, it did pull it over. That's got that Azendoo tag on it. I didn't add that to it. Azendoo did when I linked to it from over there. But I have another note for this that goes with the story that I'm writing. I didn't have time to pull up the story note yesterday because so quickly I got a hold of somebody. I just needed to do the interview, so I created a new note. And I want to link those notes together. So I am going to just right-click on this note and choose Copy Note Link. Now this is going to create a link, a hyperlink address to that note. And as Stacey mentioned, if I copy it just like this, when I paste that note, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that so you can see.
So Kristi, there's a lag in the interface. We're not seeing the submenu when you right-click, just so you know.
All right.
But the screenshot that we did in the presentation slide deck shows what you will see, and what Kristi's illustrating here is that in the middle column there, right-clicking on the note gives you that option.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a bummer, but one of the reasons we do the screen captures. So if the technology doesn't cooperate.
Yeah, so I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to turn it back over to you so maybe that you have a little bit better bandwidth and you could
Okay, well, I'm happy to do that. I think that was an excellent overview. I can see why it really can work for you, and hopefully people can decide if those features really are essential for them, or if they want to be manually managing that kind of thing within Evernote. Obviously, you can go either direction, but it looks like an outstanding solution, and the Evernote integration certainly key. And you know, Evernote has lots and lots of integration partners that you might want to research in their website as well, and clearly Kristi's found a great one.
Yeah, and if you don't need I would say if you don't need that kind of client management, project management piece of it, then a Zobni or a Zendesk or a Get It Done might be a better fit, because they're more personal task management focused. So if that feels like overkill, one of those others might be a better fit.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good point for us to address here, is I think there's actually a threshold at what you probably would outgrow my system, for example. I'm not dealing with a lot of clients needing to collaborate on my notebooks and things of that nature. Certainly, I would always use it for my personal task management, but I don't have a lot of need for something along those lines. So I'm able to manage it within my system. And, again, my company also is entirely on Evernote, so my assistant is integrating with my Evernote system and some of the note links and sharing notes and documents and things of that nature. So we choose to manage it in there. But, our audience here is really primarily independent entrepreneurs. So we're trying to show kind of what the solutions are that are working for us in that capacity. And I think hopefully you've gotten a great case study on two sides today as a result of that.
Megan had a question, so let me address that real quickly, about, do you have to have Evernote Pro to share notes with other team members in Azendoo? You do not. So you can attach to a note, because the note is attached to the workspace, then they are able to see it. So
good question.
Not have to have Pro. And then Doug had a question about contacts, which we kind of touched on last month, but do you want to address that, Stacey?
Sure. So, Doug, what I didn't say in the discussion of my setup is that Google Apps is an essential part of my overall business management system. So, Google Apps and Evernote are my primary cloud-based structures. So we do discuss this in the book, really setting up your toolkit, and we are both big advocates of Google Apps for Business, which is the paid version of Google Apps, and I utilize that for the function that they are best for, which in my opinion is calendar. I house all my contacts there, which are cloud-based and sync directly with my phone. I use Google Drive as well, and my email obviously is run through there. And for those that aren't familiar with it, I mean, if you email me, it's at harmonenterprises.com, so you can associate your own domain with it. It's just that the back end is being run by Gmail, and it allows me to add additional users and have control access for staff that works with me and needs email accounts and other shared calendars. So I keep all of those in the Google Apps. I do not integrate my contacts management into Evernote, other than, as Kristi highlighted, we discussed my lead management workflow, which does use Evernote with the business card scanning feature. I'm on iOS on my phone, so that really starts my process, but that process works both takes into consideration my contacts, which live in Gmail and Google Apps, as well as Evernote, and we talked through that workflow in last month's Hangout, so you can watch the recording there, but hopefully that clarifies your answer. So no, I do not integrate my contact information into Evernote necessarily. I leave them and do all of my contacts in Gmail and in the contacts there.
And Doug, I do the same thing. So I use Gmail for calendar, for contacts, and for email. And the way that a number of contacts get added to Gmail is I do have using the business card scanning feature on iOS. When I get a new card, which I have a stack of them from this conference this weekend, I will be taking pictures of those tonight in Evernote. That will scan them into Gmail contacts for me. It also creates a note in Evernote, so I have that. I can add notes about where I met this person and that sort of thing, and that allows me to link them to an Evernote project that I might be doing with them. But where I'm primarily managing that contact is from Google Contacts. So Evernote's the way I get it into Google Contacts through the business card scanning, and then I have the note in Evernote if I need it to look back at the card or to add other value to that contact.
Yeah, and then to address also, I will use templates in Evernote for my projects, which I talked about task management today. I didn't really talk about project management. I do have notebooks for each project within Evernote, so I have a similar structure to what Kristi just uses with her system. But at the top of that, I'll use a pinned note with a kind of a general template which might have contact information for the client. So I'm actually duplicating that and putting in my key contacts and easy retrieval of information there so that it's all in one spot for me as I'm working with that client. But I always have my phone with me, and so being able to access that contact from the Google Apps is really sufficient for how I manage my projects. So hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to ask more if you've got it. And do you have anything else, Kristi? Because in the time we have left, I'll try demoing the note linking from my bandwidth if that works.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me pull up the share screen and attempt to. Oh, let's see. This is my screen, so let's share that. And I am going to hopefully pull up. I know, it's showing my screen, so let me, sorry.
It's so big.
I know. Okay, so let's see. I have to turn this one off. Let me just escape from here. Close this. And go over to Evernote, which should be open. Hold on, sorry. I don't know if we have any other questions that we want to address while I figure out the technology here. There we go. Okay. All right. So here we have my Evernote. Is it showing?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. So if I wanted, oh, sorry, I've got a puppy chewing on my earphones here. Okay. So why I call this my ask list for client. And if I have a note here that I want to link to, I would just select it here and I right-click on it to copy the note link. Is that demoing or visual in the Hangout?
Yes.
Okay, so I would just hit copy note link. And here's this advanced power user feature that I was discussing. If I hit the option button on my keyboard, notice how the terminology changes from note link to classic note link. I prefer classic note links because I'll show you the difference. But classic note links, I copy it. It's now put it on the clipboard. I can go back over to the note that I want to do the link, and I just use a command, Command V to paste. And you can see that it pastes the note title here. And now if I want to click over to it, I just click on it and it navigated over to that link. So very, very powerful stuff. You could also, if I wanted to say Joe Smith notes, I could also go over here. It's still on my clipboard, but I can double click here. I hit Command K to enter a note and paste a link. And then I hit Command V, I hit OK, and it has done the same thing, just not with the title of the note, with the copy that I've got here, and it clicks over to the same thing. And you can use these back buttons on Evernote's interface as well, the desktop app, to easily navigate back to the notes that you have. So that's
in case somebody's not a keyboard person, you might just show them how they can right-click on highlighted text and add the hyperlink.
Okay, add a hyperlink to text. So that's a good point. So we can just click here and you can link add right here. Okay, so I could just add and then you can paste. And by the way, and you can see here the URL is a big long ugly URL, but that's the hidden URL that's associated with the note that I want to link to. And you can just hit OK and then it's there. And you know, it doesn't have to be limited to a note permalink. It could be a URL or a website as well. So lots and lots of options and very powerful. And then you can see here the non-dated reminder. If I want to add a reminder, it's been added and it put it up here at the top, task list for clients. So that gets into my project management features quite a bit. And if you don't like the order of these, you can just drag and drop them to move them around. And then if you want to add a date to it, you could go as far as to add a date right here and say, okay, this is due on the 15th. So that's a quick demo of some of the slides that and skills that I covered in the beginning of the Hangout. Okay? There you go.
All right.
Okay, so let's see if we don't have any. Are there any other questions? I think we're pretty good. I think we've got most of them covered. Certainly, let me go back to the. Oh, I closed the window. Would you mind, Kristi, pulling up the slide deck?
Not at all. Just give me just a second to get in the right spot.
So what we're going to do is talk to you a little bit about how you can continue the conversation. If there were any questions regarding this Hangout or the workflows that we talked about, our intent is to really show you how to use Evernote as a workflow to accomplish things in your business and in your life and keep track of all of it. So hopefully we've kind of done that for you, and we cover 15 specific workflows that can be used in your work. In your workflow in the book Untethered with Evernote. So you can go to getuntethered.com, Untethered with Evernote, and you can participate in the details of the book there. We also have a resources link, which Kristi's screen is showing right now, where we live update information. Obviously, Evernote is a changing platform, and you can subscribe to the resources link, which expand upon many of the concepts that are in the book, and we update that. We just updated the web clipper one, for example, because Evernote has updated the interface and given you some options with that. So we keep current in that way, and we encourage you to go to the resources tab on the Evernote website, or sorry, on the Get Untethered website, if you're interested in that. And as Kristi mentioned at the beginning, please follow and join us and communicate with us through the Get Untethered community. We have the hashtag Get Untethered that we actively monitor. If you have any questions for us, we're happy to do that. And Facebook, we have a great group of people who are all using Evernote in the ways that Kristi and I are championing, and we're learning from each other. So this is your list of URLs. Also, I'm noticing that the right click might not be showing for people in the tutorial. So we'll take some screenshots of that. You can reference the slides, but in essence, hopefully you got the gist of it, and certainly ask us in the Facebook group or on Google Plus if you have further questions. And as we mentioned, the book is available. Thanks to Kristi's excellent efforts, we have 3 versions of the book available: PDF, EPUB, and the Mobi file. So you can buy the book, all formats, at getuntethered.com, or you can go to iTunes or Amazon in order to get that. And we are offering a 10% discount code for anybody that is interested in the book and the further details at the website. You just use that discount code 10AugustGH for Google Hangout. It expires in a week, but certainly would love to have you as part of the Get Untethered book community, and we are happy to upgrade you if you've already purchased the book in the PDF format and are interested in one of these other formats as well. So with that, we'd like you to save the date for our next Get Untethered Hangout. We're going to be talking on September 18th from 10 to 11, and we're going to talk about managing receipts and expenses in Evernote. Clearly, we all have to pay taxes. We all have to deal with getting reimbursed, especially as independent entrepreneurs, and Evernote's a brilliant solution for this, and we're going to illustrate kind of the systems that we use and how we manage that process, and integrating with our tax and bookkeeping professionals as well. So anything to add about that, Kristi?
Nope, just excited. This was one of the most exciting things for me to figure out when I became an independent entrepreneur, because I had no idea how receipts were going to rule my life. So thank goodness Evernote came to the rescue.
It's transformative.
It is. It is.
Definitely transformative. So with that, if you need to contact either of us individually, there's our websites and Twitter handles, excellent ways to talk to both of us. But we really appreciate your time today and are, again, looking to bring value. So please let us know what we can expand upon and what questions you have. And with that, we appreciate your time. And I thank you from California. We love working Untethered, and hopefully you can see how it's absolutely possible. So with that, thank you. And Kristi, do you have anything concluding thoughts?
Thank you from Dallas. So rejoin everyone. I don't know where I'll be next month. We'll see.
We'll see where we are next month. So thank you for attending, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.